Hey guys, welcome back to the Cool Lifting Podcast. I'm Theo, your host, and this is my co-host Eric.
Yes.
Um, and today we'll be talking about nationals,
Mhm.
what to expect. We'll recap our experience at nationals and just some general advice we'd like to give. So
Yes.
we'll be breaking it down first, I guess. We can either start with our own experience, or if you want to start with breaking down what people should expect.
Yeah, we can just talk about the order of how these
Yeah.
things go
Yeah.
from step one to step two.
Okay, so the first thing we'll be talking about then is just what you should be prepping for before you even make it to nationals. And something that I just want to start with is making sure you have an attempt sheet.
Mm-hmm.
Since I see there were actually a fair bit of athletes who didn't have more safe numbers in mind in case something went technically wrong. So your attempt sheet should have 3 attempts, obviously, but you should have an opener that's around RP 6 to 7, or if you want to use more concrete numbers, I would say around like 88 to 90% of your 1 rep max. And then from there, you should have a second attempt that you want to hit and a safe one in case something technically bad happens. Like, let's say you rack early by accident, or you rack early on bench as well. You still want to go up to be able to hit your third, but obviously hit a safe number that isn't going to, affect you if another mistake happens. And then your third attempt, you need to have three. You need to have a safe one, the one that you want to hit, and then a reach one. So that's going to be where I start, and then I'll let you go, Eric. What do you recommend people
Yeah,
do before they get to the meet itself?
just have something. As more people join the sport, there's more people who don't know exactly what's up just because maybe this is their second meet and their first meet was their qualifying meet. Maybe they're just really strong, or maybe Powerlifting America, there's no QT, so some people are just going to the nationals pretty early. And with that, just knowing a little bit about what's up, just being somewhat prepared with the attempt sheet, just have something down. And then there was definitely a handful of people, whether they were just by themselves or maybe they had their boyfriend or their girlfriend
Mm-hmm.
handling them, and that's great. But they might not power lift, and
Right.
they might do another sport or something like that. But there is a bit of a learning curve for them as well as there is for you.
Yeah. And I'm sure if you make it to nationals, you've had to do some level, like state or local meet. But basically, just make sure that you also have your warm ups ready. You're probably going to end up having to warm up a lot quicker than you're comfortable with, or there's going to be a lot more variables out of your control. So just have that ready and on hand as well. And then I guess beyond like the actual lifting, um, for those of you who are looking to place, you'll probably want to start scouting your competition. So, do you have any tips for scouting or what people should be doing?
Scouting is mainly just checking their Instagram and checking their open powerlifting.
Right.
So I'd say with the open powerlifting, one key you could do is you could see the jumps they make from their first to second to third,
Mm-hmm.
and you can estimate they'll make similar jumps. Maybe the opener is 10 to 20 kilos higher, but they're still going to make the 10-kilo jumps each attempt. So you can, if you see their openers when you get there on meet day, you can sort of calculate what they have in mind. And everyone has a lifting account nowadays. So you can just look on their Instagram and see, okay, this is what they hit in training. And let's just add a little bit more to it, assuming the taper goes well. And that's probably what they're going to hit on meet day.
Yeah. Expect the worst. So,
It's better to be safe than sorry
yeah,
with that stuff.
if you're looking at their training, hopefully you can get a good idea of what they're going to hit. So, maybe just see how they perform at their last meet and see if their peaking and tapering process tends to work out really well. You can actually get an idea of like how much they can usually add on to their total as well.
Yeah, that's one thing too with the open powerlifting.
Yeah.
If they're missing all their third squats, there's a good chance they might miss their third squat again. But if they're always going 9 for 9, like, hey, this guy's probably going to hit all of his attempts.
Right.
We should just keep all that stuff in mind. And it's hard to know exactly who's going to win until the final deadlifts start happening. But it's good to just have an idea of, like, hey, this guy's doing really well. I'm going to need to really do well on my other lifts too, just to keep up.
Yeah, and with that being said, like any other meet, going 9 for 9 is high priority, making sure you nail all your third attempts. Otherwise, if you don't do that, chances are you'll have no shot at placing. So even if you see someone's Instagram and you think they're going to hit this like crazy total, just make sure when you're on meet day that you're hitting the numbers that'll get you to where you need to in order to either safely hit your third, or if you need to reach on your deadlift, you can. So that kind of covers what I think people should be thinking of before the meet in terms of like the actual lifting. Something else I also wanted to touch up on is just making sure you have a protocol if you're, cutting weight and you plan on regaining that weight. You're going to need to not only have like a gut cut and water cut protocol, but you'll also need to make sure that you have a plan ready to gain the weight back as quickly as possible. Because a lot of the time, actually, you're not going to have the full 2 hours to regain your weight. So what I recommend for a lot of people is try to eat as many calories as you can in the first 30 minutes, like beyond comfortableness, and then let the next hour just be settling the weight like in your stomach. That way, you're not going into your first squat feeling completely, emptied from the tank.
Yeah, the timing of these things go a little faster, and maybe for whatever reason you can't find the weigh-ins. Like a lot of things can happen with the weigh-in timing. Maybe it gets delayed, right? Who knows? But it's better to force this food down quickly and have enough time to digest than to take your time eating it and not have enough time to digest the food.
Yeah, right. Okay, and then that's going to segue us into the next phase of nationals, which is the warm-up. And the first thing you want to do is just make sure you get there early. So before the actual weigh-in time that you see, you want to get there earlier than that and make sure you can get to the platform that you want to. So for me, it's typically the one that's closest to the one where I'm actually going to be competing in. And I also am pretty strict with limiting it to 5 people at most. I don't like when there's more than 5 people warming up, especially if...
There's enough platforms for everyone.
Exactly. And, everyone's strength is going to be sporadically all over the place. And you just want to have an idea of the order you want to have the lifters go in. So...
Yeah, after weigh-ins, you can just go find a platform, sit down, and then people will see you're on the platform and they'll kind of gravitate towards other platforms. That's just how humans work. And if people try asking if they can go on the platform, you can tell them no. And you can just tell them, hey, there's too many people. There's a platform over there with not a lot of people. Go over there. And it's no big deal. It's nothing personal.
Yeah, for sure. And from what I find too is like, if there's like a warm-up and someone sees your weight, sometimes they'll just hop in and be like, can I do that real quick? I really need to do that. But you just got to tell them no.
Tell them no.
Yeah.
That happened at USAPL Nationals.
Yeah.
And some team asked, it was 190 on the bar. He's like, bro, can I do 190? This is my last warm-up. I took the green off and I told him no. Because we have our order here. We have our people here. I don't know what platform you came from. Go back to your platform.
Yeah, right. That's kind of crazy, though.
It's too much to deal with.
Yeah.
So then it's going to make my athletes have less time, and it's going to screw up all the people on that current platform. And even if you're an athlete and another athlete just walks up to you, you can just tell them no. Because you'll shoot yourself in the foot if you keep adding people to your platform.
Yeah, right. Okay, so now that we covered that, what about warm-ups? I guess like I'll start, and it kind of ties in with having the attempt sheet, is I'll have only 4 warm-ups for my athletes to do. And honestly, I'll do that for local and national level meets because, to be honest, I don't really think people need more than 4 warm-ups.
Say 4 is the sweet spot.
Yeah, especially you need to consider your first attempt is a warm-up, right? Like if you're going to do a new PR in the gym, you're not mentally preparing yourself to do the third thing before your actual PR. So like you just have to really think of it like that too. Like you might not feel the best going into your last warm up, into your first attempt, but after you do your first attempt, that's when you should feel primed, or you'll know what you can hit as your top end.
You'll have some sort of idea. Just having the warm-ups planned out a bit ahead of time, that's a lot more rare than finding someone without an attempt sheet. That's pretty rare in general. I don't think a lot of people do that, but I think it's better to be overly prepared in situations like this, especially when you're spending all the money on traveling, all the money on the meet, all the money. It's like, hey, you might as well try out the warm-ups while you're there. And if you have too many warm-ups, things take too long, and if this meet is moving quickly, you will either have to cut warm-ups, and it might make things a little awkward, or you'll have to try and go faster. But there's also other people on the platform with you, and they're going in their order. And how the order of it goes is it's kind of like you go, and then 3 or 4 other people go, and then you go again. It's not really you go, and then the other people go, and then you go again. That's what happens when there's too many.
And what you're saying also ties into something else that's really important is make sure you bring everything that you could possibly need from the gym over to the warm-up. So a lot of people will use like resistance bands in their warm-ups. You might just be using the gyms, but I would just go and buy some to use that. Same with like collars, and then even like a small deadlift jack. I've seen people bring those.
Really?
Yeah, just like the ones where you can lift up one side.
It's on my handler to deal with that.
Yeah, right. I was gonna say I let someone else do that.
Some warm-ups, like maybe someone does hamstring curls before they squat, but there's not gonna be a hamstring curl machine at this convention center that's not related to powerlifting at all. So you might need to find just an alternative for that, something like RDLs, but you're holding a green 10-kilo plate in each hand instead. Something like that. Just to turn the hamstrings on, and nothing too crazy. But it's good to substitute that stuff in prep and try all that stuff out in prep, maybe on your lighter days, than to try it out for the first time on a meet day.
Yeah. And this is also something I see a lot of people do is just bring a hoodie and sweats.
Yeah.
A lot of these hotels or venues where
They're cold.
Yeah, they're really cold. So just make sure that at a bare minimum you can get warmed up that way, and just like walk around the venue. That's honestly gonna do a lot for people. If you're not really keeping track of your steps. That's something else. Maybe leading into preparation, maybe like 8 weeks out. Start being on top of more of those other variables, just so that you have an idea of like how warmed up you'll typically be before you even get into the session.
It's good to get steps before you compete, because sometimes the meet is, let's say it's at, at 7 a.m.
Yeah.
Were they at 7 a.m. or 6 a.m.?
Yeah, it's at 6 a.m.
Let's say they're at 6 a.m., right? It's like, hey, you should probably be waking up at 3:30 to 4, so you have some time to just walk around and be a little more awake rather than being super groggy, like waking up in the hotel and then immediately coming to the venue. Or if weigh-ins are at 11, I think 11 was the other time, then maybe don't stay sitting in the hotel bed from 8 a.m. to 10:30 a.m., right? Move around a little bit, get something in there, and then you'll be a lot more prepared when you go to the venue.
Yeah, because another thing a lot of people should do in their preparation is maybe bring some sort of sleeping supplement. This is what I do.
I think those are risky.
Yeah, they can be. I use ones without melatonin in them, just to like be safe, like safer, I guess. But like you might be experiencing jet lag if you're having to go
Yeah,
back
that's a thing for sure.
or something. So that would just help you get into a little bit deeper of a sleep early, and then you can wake up earlier to get even more prep time. Like,
Yeah.
because if you're cutting weight, you probably want to wake up early anyway to see if you have more weight to lose. If so, then you can just start, using Jolly Ranchers and spitting it out early.
Or if you're like a high schooler or a college student and
Yeah.
your sleep schedule is abysmal and you're waking up super late, we might want to fix this before the meet rather than you staying up all night
Yeah.
before this huge meet where everything's going on.
You're talking about Charles? Shout out Charles.
Shout out Charles. No, it's just well, my sleep schedule was abysmal during
Yeah.
college, that's for sure.
Agreed.
So funny enough, when I did CNATs, my weigh-ins were at 5 p.m. or something super late. So I made my sleep schedule even more abysmal, just so I could wake up at like 1 p.m., 2 p.m. and not be super tired because I don't think we finished till midnight or so.
Yeah.
So that's not always the case for everyone.
Yeah.
But yeah, make it a little more normal, just so you have time to wake up early and get some steps in, just to wake up a little bit more.
Yeah, right. And then, the obvious things, make sure you have your rack height ready and stuff for the warm-up room, telling your coach or handler what that is so they can do it quickly. So I guess that really covers what you should be doing in the warm-up room. It's pretty self-explanatory, and honestly, by the time you get to bench, things start to get a lot smoother. Because, like when you first get there, everyone is waiting for their flight, so it looks a little bit intimidating. But then after that, everything kind of calms down and settles.
Yeah, you might even need to warm up faster, like even if it's still only 4 warm-ups.
Yeah.
And your coach is telling you, hey, we need to go now, we need to go quick, things are moving a lot more faster than planned. It's not really the time to ask questions and ask, like, oh, why is that? Why is it going faster than planned? No, it's more so, hey, get under the bar and do the squat.
Yeah.
Like, we need to go now.
And that's a good point because in a lot of national level meets, one flight might be normal. It might be like 13 people. But then the other flight after, it only might be like 8 to 9. And if that's the case, it's really fast. Like that flight A, yeah, like they're warming up as soon as the other flight gets on. And I know for some people, like they might just cut out doing the bar for bench or something, just because it might be a full rotation of people before they even get to the red, which is basically like nothing for a lot of people if they're competing at nationals.
Yeah.
So I guess we can kind of segue now right after warm-ups, and then they're starting squats. Is there anything expectations leading up into their first squat attempt, or just the overall competition itself now?
Yeah, with the squat, this happens at every national level meet. Everyone says the depth is unfair, it's inconsistent, whatever they say, it's all on Instagram, and the athletes post it on their stories later on. But the squat just needs to be deep enough to where it's kind of like anyone can tell it was deep enough. Usually if it's that deep, it's pretty good.
Yeah. Gotta love the passive aggressive stories though.
It's every national. There's always a few.
Yeah, and you mentioned this before to me, which is it takes a lot of time and effort for these refs to even become a national level ref.
Yeah.
So their standards are a lot older than a lot of these newer state refs or whatever at these local or even regional level meets.
Yeah.
And it's not that these people are being more lenient. It's just that at the time of these other generation of powerlifters, we weren't really trying to min-max leverages or anything like that.
Yeah.
So if someone wasn't able to squat to depth, they might still try to stay to low bar squatting and just play around with their stance, foot angle. But back in the day, like your only option might have been to just squat high bar in order to hit depth. We don't really think like that anymore, but
so all the referees at this meet, they're I'd say in their 50s. They're just a
Yeah.
little. It's a little different than all the power lifters now who
Yeah.
are like 18 to 25, and then even finding 25 to 30 is pretty rare. But they're all a bit older, and respectfully, of course. But being this high level of a referee takes a while. It takes a lot less time now because there's not enough national level referees, so they had to lower the standards a little bit, or like for the years of experience, they just kind of shortened it or got rid of it. But there's not a lot of these refs out there. So these are the same refs at every meet, and so it's the same judging at every meet, and you can expect the same quote unquote inconsistencies that you see a lot of people talk about. Then you just need to. It just needs to be a deep squat, a long pause, bench, and then no up down on deadlift, which most people are pretty good for.
Just make sure you don't have soft knees on deadlift. Like you're dotting your I's and crossing your T's in training. And I know like it's kind of jarring for a lot of people when their coaches are so hard on them with like pausing their benches long enough and just squatting to depth. But it's really something you need to experience at a meet before you really understand why it is. Because a lot of people might go 9 for 9 pretty comfortably or easily at the state or regional level or local level, but then they're seeing red lights at a national level, and it's because of this. Like the reffing, the officiating is at a different standard, and those judges you see are just different. Like
it's just different.
Yeah.
But you can expect it to be different because it happens at every single national level.
Yeah. So that kind of covers the depth. I think that's the big thing for squat. And then, making sure you have your attempt sheet ready.
Yeah.
Like adjusting for that in case judging is a little bit stricter than you thought it would be and the warm-ups are a little bit quicker.
And then on squat too, some people who are looking to place, maybe they'll get their first attempt, but they'll miss their second on depth or a technicality, whatever it is. It might even be worth it to go up after that because if we retake it for the second and we hit it, we don't have enough kilos anyway to place. Placing's out of the question now. And it's worth going up, maybe not as much, a bit more conservative, but still getting something on the board. Just more of something, because you need more than something. Something is just the second.
Yeah.
You need to pick and choose where you take these risks.
And for sure that ties into like having that attempt sheet ready, because you might actually be able to go from your first to your third, but if you have to go from your first to, a safe third, that might be a smarter option if you're having like depth issues. Because, like a lot is on the platform to risk at that point. If, you didn't bomb out and you missed your second because of depth, like it might actually be worth it to take the safe third and just make sure you have enough of a gap to actually make it on the platform.
And it's still more risky than just the retaking the second, but if it's between that and absolutely no placing, what is that worth to you as an athlete? Is it worth the risk of not placing?
Yeah. Okay. So leading into bench, was there anything that you felt like people should maybe be aware of? I guess starting with the pausing, I think that's like the most strict or jarring thing.
The most amount of things pop up on bench because there's all the little things they're looking for, and then there's more commands and there's just more stuff going on. And for a lot of the more technical benchers, it's pretty much always just going to be a longer pause and a longer hold and a longer whatever, and it's going to hit and you're going to feel it, but it's to be expected at every single one of these meets. This is how it always is. The more technical benchers, they have to look for all the little things, right? So that takes a little bit of time, and then they really want to make sure the bar is all good on your chest. So a longer pause.
Agreed. And I think there's a lot of things you can do in prep. For example, just like optimizing your setup as much as you can. I know there's a lot of people who might set up with their feet on the bench and then bring it down to the floor on their toes and then they slide back and they put it on their heel and they do this, like 20-step process to set up their bench. And you just have to remember, like, these judges are looking for your foot to be flat, and then they have to see if your butt's, flat or just on the bench itself, elbows locked out, etc. And if you have all of these steps, you're going to be holding that bar for another like extra 3 seconds compared to what you would be doing in the gym. So really just nailing down a more optimized setup and a quicker setup is probably going to do you a lot more than you actually think.
Yeah.
So,
just don't take forever with it. You can have it
right.
all that stuff
Yeah.
be pretty quick, or maybe you can experiment a bit with if you set up with your feet on your toes, and then just experiment with being on your heels and having your flat feet the whole time, and that can subtract a second or two, just like that.
Yeah. And not only is the pausing difficult, but again, the holding the weight on the platform, holding it there for an extra like 3 seconds is a lot more difficult than people realize. So in my own programming with my athletes, usually I'll have like a tertiary bench day, have a single, and it might start at 3 count pause and then 2 count pause for the next block. But then on the block that's going into the meet, I'll actually have them do comp standard pauses where they have someone giving them commands. So that way they at least get 4 practice sessions going into the meet.
Yeah, some people just need to hear
Yeah,
the commands.
for sure.
And then one thing too, just if you feel like the commands are a tiny bit fast, you can ask the guy giving you commands like, "Hey, can you just make it a bit longer?" And then you might actually feel like, "Wow, that was really hard. I did not like that."
Yeah, right. So yeah, I think covering bench, those are the biggest things. I would say the setup and the pausing, making sure your elbows are locked out.
Yeah, it's a long list compared to squat, where it's just kind of like lock your knees and squat deep.
Yeah.
And then deadlift, it's just lock it out and
Yeah.
no up down.
And for bench in particular, it is a lot about managing expectations. You are probably less likely to hit an all-time PR. If anything, I would expect to either tie your PR or be 5 pounds under.
Yeah, it's just hard with all this stuff. And maybe you'll do your second and it doesn't move too bad, but then now you're just feeling it in your body. You're like, wow, that hold was more than I thought it'd be. Wow, my pecs are a little more gassed than I thought they'd be after that second pause. And it's like, you still want to go up to that reach third after all of that.
Yeah. Something that was actually a little bit unexpected with one of my people I was handling is he was training on an Alico pad going into USAPL Raw Nats, and even something like that kind of threw him off.
Pads are different.
Yeah, so you'll probably be able to get good training in with whatever competition equipment, but just keep in mind also in your prep with bench, that's the most prone to errors if you don't train on the comp standard equipment. But maybe if you're training at a commercial gym and you're going to nationals, you might actually get some more.
Yeah, it's like the commercial gym people get a buff.
Yeah.
And then, like, we're in Texas. I'm sure a lot of people listening to this aren't in Texas. And if you go to a powerlifting gym in Texas, there's a lot of TSS pads, and those are what's used at USAPL. But what's a little more rare is to find a gym with an Alico pad if you're going to do a Powerlifting America national level meet, or even any Powerlifting America meet, since they're all Alico. So there's only a few gyms where we are that have a pad like that, and for some people that is just too far to go to.
Yeah.
So that's one thing definitely to expect. But if you can at least like try it out before your meet once, maybe even if it's not on a heavy day, just to know what's up. It's good.
Yeah. And something else I wanted to mention too was just be aware of the flooring situation. I know at past nationals, the floor has been like a lot more slippery than others. So just make sure that you just have good shoes.
Yeah. It seems like it's a lot better now.
It
now
is.
That TSS is using their stuff, using their equipment, and in charge. But when I did the CNATs, I remember seeing the pass like 3 years, everyone was talking about how slippery the floor was. And I was like, okay, I'll expect it to be slippery because this is happening at every single meet, and everyone's just saying it's slippery. And then I benched there, and it was the most slippery carpet I've used at any meet. But I think that is better in USAPL for sure, and I want to say in Powerlifting America.
Yeah.
Doing a lot better as well.
Yeah. I was gonna say for collegiate nationals and raw nationals for USAPL this year, things were fine. And if you have newer Hyper V's or just newer shoes meant for benching, you'll probably be fine.
I haven't seen any complaints on Instagram.
Yeah, not yet.
But but even in the warm up, maybe the warm up doesn't have any carpet. That's a lot more likely to happen, and you just kind of have to deal with it on your warm ups. Maybe you could have your coach or handler stand like right where your feet are, and just make sure they don't slide like crazy. Or if you don't have coach or handler at the meet, you just kind of have to deal with it.
Yeah, right. Okay. So that covers bench, and then I don't really think there's too much to say about deadlift in terms of like the technique and what you should expect, other than like bring baby powder and then liquid chalk, and regular chalk is probably a good idea.
I'd say bring your own chalk for sure.
Right.
So the chalk there is usually good enough, usually fine. Some people are just a little more sensitive, or maybe they just want a little more things in their control. I like having a little more things in my control. So
I would say, I would say a lot of what I feel like needs to be said though is the placing on like your strategy when it comes to deadlifting. Assuming most people are trying to place like pulling for that position, and just making sure that you know what to expect for yourself, and then also what your competition, what you feel like they're going to do, because that's really going to dictate what you'll probably end up putting as your third pull. Since for one of my athletes, that's what we had to consider when we go 8 for 8, or in our case we went 7 for 8, but we still knew what we needed to do for the pull. So that's what it mostly comes down to, I'd say, for deadlifts. Not really too much after that.
Yeah. You'll have the coach or handler more so keeping an eye on that. But you need to tell them, like, hey, I'm trying to place. I think these people are the main people to worry about. And just be prepared.
Yeah, right. And also, just final tidbit is if you're putting any records in, like a world record or American record, you'll have to tell the scoring table that it is an American record or a world record.
Yeah, you need to tell them ahead of time. And if it's a total record, they need to see every lift in order for that total record to count. You really just need to tell them ahead of time. There's a few rules on it in the rule book. There's a few pages about it. If you're trying to get a record, definitely read those.
And maybe something that people should also consider is your placing matters more than some of these records. If you're trying to make podium or get first, getting a 9 for 9 total is what's going to matter the most compared to reaching for some of these numbers and potentially losing your placing. I'll see a lot of lifters, they'll see what their athletes are doing, or other athletes are doing, and if they miss their attempts, you don't have to go and try to hit a world record if it means like potentially missing out on winning. So
winning is number one.
Yeah.
Placing is number one. And if you want to go for a record that maybe it's like a squat record and you kind of know it's going to be ascend, you should know ahead of time and be okay with, hey, if I miss this, I'm definitely not placing as high. And I'm probably not placing, or whatever it is, all right? But, well, if you get it, then, yeah, it's the best thing in the world. Yeah. And you'll probably still place.
Yeah.
But yeah, hitting, placing, doing well, podium, all that is more important, especially if it's state records. State records can be broken at anything, any meet. Placing is number one.
Yeah, and state records are just way too niche. Like if you're getting a state record as like a teen to like 60 kilo like
Not the
female,
team
it's
too.
like that's like you're not really going up against that many competitors who wanted to achieve that state record if you're in like one of the smaller states as well.
It's just good to know the trade offs
Yeah.
of everything. Because if you have too many goals, like this record, this record, this record, and this placing, and I also want to hit this number because that would be a really big PR for me.
Yeah.
You might just fall short of all of them, rather than hey, I just want to place really high. That goal is a lot. Like one goal is a lot easier to get than 5 goals.
Yeah, for sure. Um, okay, I think that covers most of the advice and what people should expect going into nationals. Did you want to start talking about how your experience was?
Yeah, so at USAPL Nationals, I was handling a few people and a handful of my athletes, Ryan and Alana. Alana, I believe she got 8th in Open, and Ryan won his division, got first in Team 3. And with Ryan, it was more so, it was like we knew going into this we were coming here to win.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, it's like, hey, let's hit our attempts. And then on deadlift, since we're the favorite out of everyone, let's make sure whatever we deadlift is secures us first place.
Mm-hmm.
And then we went 7 for 9, so we actually missed the squat and the bench, last squat, last bench. But with how things worked out, some other people missed here and there, and it kind of balanced out. And now we do our second deadlift. The other competition does their second deadlift, and it's more of now like, hey, we should really keep our first place finishing because we know this guy has a big deadlift. We know this guy is going to be the one to pull for the win. Let's secure it with this safer number rather than going for a medium number or a reach number, or if we miss that, the other guy pulling for the win is a lot more likely.
Okay.
I think that's all I have to say about Ryan. If you wanna...
Okay. So to recap my experience at nationals, I had to handle 2 of my own athletes on Sunday, and then on the second session, I handled another athlete, Jalen. So the 2 athletes that I handled, Marseilla and Joanna, really proud of them. Joanna placed 3rd in the 90 kilo women's junior, and then Marcia placed 12th. And for Joanna, she had a great meet. She went 8 for 9. And our overall strategy was to make podium. We knew we could do it. And a lot of that hinged on her squat and her deadlift. So when we went for a 3rd squat, it was just the projected number we wanted because we didn't really want to risk leaving a lot of kilos on the table. And that was a good call because the 3rd squat ended up being a grinder. But that's okay because that allowed us to keep everyone else on their toes for her 3rd pull. Going into bench, this is where that discussion about the long pauses really showed because when she paused it there, like she couldn't really get it off her chest. But training wise, she was hitting tons of PRs in prep. So that was just kind of our own expectations of what we need in our own training. And then going into her 3rd pull, by the second attempt, we knew what the other athletes could do and what they put as their 3rd. I felt like they couldn't hit that. So we put 402 and she smoked it. Like she hit it in training actually, but she maybe have dropped it at the top. So we knew we could have loaded 408 if we had to, but we ended up just doing the 402 because we didn't want to leave that risk for not making podium, and it ended up paying off. So yeah, she ended up doing really really well.
With the squat too, is if it's a battle and there's a lot of people, you might need to push a little bit more. Like it's not, if you go for the conservative squat, it's just not enough to make sure the podium's there. Kind of like what we were talking about earlier. If you miss the second, is it even still worth going up on the 3rd? It's something similar. And maybe the seconds, it looks all right, but it's like, hey, we really need this good pushed third squat, and we should get it.
Yeah, and that's exactly what our thought process was because I know we could have just did like a 385 squat, but then in the worst case scenario for us, she would have to be pulling like 418 to 424. And I was not confident in that. Like that was now leaning less towards 50-50 and more towards like maybe like a 30-40% chance she's going to get that.
Every kilo
Yeah,
matters.
where like I was willing to take that risk on squat just because I was way more confident in her hitting the 390 than I was with her pulling 424 if it came down to it. And then Marcia, like her strength was there. Unfortunately, it was a lot of those, you know, variables like the squat depth. They were very strict on her there. Like it needed to be undeniable. And then for bench, unfortunately, she got an up down, but she locked it out. Deadlift, she just didn't have enough in the tank for that. Things were going really quickly. She was nervous, so just didn't pan out the way that we wanted it to. I know you had an athlete in Powerlifting America Nationals. Did you want to go over your experience with that? Because I know he ended up placing to go to Worlds, right?
Yeah, so I had a few in Powerlifting America Nationals. I had Helen, Alex, and Byron. And with Byron, he was the one who had the most realistic shot of winning and shooting for first. And originally, that was the game plan. And then the main competition just had such a good meet. And we realized as deadlifts were coming up, wow, that third deadlift is a little too out of reach. Mm-hmm. So what we did instead was we still went for what was a really solid third attempt deadlift, and it was on the higher end, and he was able to get it. And because of that, top 9 GLP for sub junior gets a spot for Worlds, and he was in that. Calculating that in the moment is too hard, especially as there's people who haven't even competed who are competing later in the week, and that's impossible to really know who's going to do what before it happens. So for him, it was more so, hey, we're still going to push this deadlift, but we're still going to go and make sure it's somewhat realistic rather than loading up what he would have hypothetically needed for first place, because that was too much. That one was a little too much on the day. But if we can still get this really strong 9 for 9 showing, then we might have a shot with the GLP, and then it worked out. But even his plan originally, our plan was to just go 8 for 8 and then pull for the 1.
Yeah.
It was nothing crazy. That's what it was.
Okay, I got you.
But one thing with the difference between Powerlifting American Nationals and USAPL Nationals is since it's a bit smaller, there's a bit less people in some of these divisions, there might only be 1 flight per session. And with that, instead of a 10-minute timer in between squat and bench, it's a 20-minute timer. Mm-hmm. But having 1 flight and a 10-minute timer versus 2 flights, having 1 flight and a 20-minute timer versus 2 flights and a 10-minute timer, the 1 flight and 20-minute timer is a lot shorter than you think. Because pretty much right after you're done squatting, you need to start warming up for bench immediately. And we didn't really know that. We were just yapping a bit too much. And then we see this timer and we're like, wow, we have to do our warm-ups now, and we have to go right now. We got to be really, really quick. And luckily, they were able to adapt to that, but I definitely noticed a lot of people weren't prepared for that. I mean, we weren't prepared for that well. But that was something that was just super quick, and that's not a thing at local meets. Local meets, there's never 1 flight. That's super rare. It's like it's pretty much always 2 flights, even if it's a small meet. But that made things go by lightning quick. Because pretty much right after you're done squatting, you take a drink of your water, and then you have to go warm up for bench immediately, rather than having some time to chill out or recomp a little bit, whatever it is. There's no time for really anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's also like a really big mental thing for athletes is you have to be mentally in it the entire way through. Like, it's not over until it's over. even if you're, waiting for bench or waiting for deadlift, like you got to still be locked in.
Job's not finished.
Yeah, job's not finished. So I guess for those athletes who really want to make it to nationals and like that's their longer term goal in powerlifting right now, and they're on the fence about their total and like they're having to have these really big reach numbers in order to get there. Would you recommend these lifters, try to make it to nationals that way, or are you someone who recommends like, hey, like you want to have already hit the QT and like have some buffer room before you even actually, make it to nationals?
It's definitely it's a similar game plan where it's kind of like you're pulling for first in a way, except first place is that qualifying total, whatever it is, and the game plan is hit your attempts on squat and bench, and then if it's close enough on deadlift or if the reach number is somewhat realistic, then you might as well just go for it. Yeah. But what a lot of people do is they're like, hey, I'm gonna do plus 20 pounds on my reach squat, and then plus 20 pounds on my reach bench, and then plus 20 pounds on my reach deadlift. Yeah. And it's just like that total is not happening. That's too much of a reach on everything. And then what happens is you just miss one of those attempts, and now it's game over. There is no qualifying at that meet anymore. Yeah.
So what you're telling me is like you're not trusting the process. Like it's not going to be their meet day.
It's a little too much on me.
Yeah, a little too much.
That's what that is.
But in all seriousness, I 100% agree. Like, the goal is always to go 9 for 9, whatever meet you're doing. To be completely honest, like adding on to your total, and then if you're placing, like that's where you obviously want to have some wiggle room. But if your goal is to just make it to nationals, like you need to be realistic about going 9 for 9 because exactly what you're saying. If you missed your third squat and you have to have this reach thing where you're doing a reach number for every single attempt, you're going to be very demoralized once you miss that third squat, and you're going to be wondering why you're doing the meet entirely. So, like it's okay if you have to reach for it. If, like let's say your squat's like 500 pounds and you need like 507, like that makes sense. But, if you need like another 40 pounds added to your entire total, that's just not realistic.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good goal to have, though, for sure. And if you just keep going, you'll...
Yeah. And I think that's a really good goal for, all athletes. And I do like what they're doing now where you have to have a QT for a state meet, a regional one. Like, smaller goals will add up to the larger one.
Mm-hmm. I like how it's there's a little more of a framework rather than just any meet and then nationals. Yeah. So it has to be done at these specific kind of meets. And I'm sure later on with Powerlifting America they'll add in something like that as they get more members.
Yeah. So that kind of concludes all that I wanted to cover with both some advice for newer athletes going into their first nationals and maybe also veteran lifters and also just our own experience. Was there anything else you wanted to add?
That's about it.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
awesome.
That concludes the Cool Lifting podcast.
Yes.
Have a good day.
Peace.
All right.
Okay.
That was perfect.
This is right on time.
Yeah.